There are two arena tournaments currently going on in Raid Shadow Legends. As you can see, the Tag Arena tournament will be done in about a day and a half, whereas the Classic Arena Takedown only has 12 hours left on its timer. Now, I've been competing in both of these tournaments. I am on the leaderboard in both. So in today's video, I thought I would show you how I approach PvP. Now, I want to focus on three different areas. The first is champions, because as a free-to-play player, I need my champions to bring me value in lots of places, not just in PvP. So I have specialized only a few champions for PvP, and I do want to highlight those. But then we'll also talk about other champions who can give you value in all locations, PvE and PvP, in just one build. The second area I want to focus on is team compositions. There are several team compositions that you should know just kind of as a fundamental understanding of how to play Arena. But then there are also a lot of ways to flex those team compositions depending on the opposition you're facing. And that is the third area I want to focus on, how to choose an opponent and how to customize your team composition in order to counter defenses that you are likely to see. So we've got a lot to cover in today's video. I hope you're up for it. I am Colred. This is Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. Let's get started. Just a quick update, I still have a cold. In fact, it has gotten worse over the last couple of days, so you may be able to hear it in my voice, and I hope it's not too bothersome during the course of this video. But if you were wondering, why does Colred sound strange? You have your answer. Now, between the cold and the new year, I will not be live streaming this upcoming Tuesday, so the next live stream will happen on Tuesday, January 7th, and that will be the first Takeover Tuesday of the new year. I'm excited to get back to it, and I hope to see you there. As always, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and consider joining our Discord community. And once again, thank you for all the support now and for all of 2024. We had a great year, and I can't wait to see what happens in 2025. I want to start by talking about the arena stats that you can find here in your Great Hall. Now, if you look in the right-hand column, you can see I have 171 wins, 7 losses, and a win rate of 96%. That's all Classic Arena, by the way. That's not 3v3 Arena. Now, the volume of matches that you might fight in any given week is going to vary depending on where you are in your account's progression. For instance, I recently completed my Great Hall, and my arena battles have dropped to the bare minimum each week because that's just time I can save. There's no real reason for me to keep fighting a ton of arena battles, unless I'm doing a tournament like I'm currently doing. So most of these 178 battles have actually come in the last 48 hours or so, whereas the first half of my week, I maybe did like 25 battles total. So that's just a note there in case you're wondering about that number. However, the more important number is actually the win rate. Now, you do want to shoot for a high win rate, but I never personally shoot for a 100% win rate. It is achievable. You can do that. But there are two things that you do when you're shooting for a 100% win rate that I think are counterproductive to competing in arena tournaments like we're talking about today. The first is that you play very carefully, right? You move slowly, you try to be as precise as possible, and as a result, each battle takes more time. We're talking about fighting hundreds of battles in maybe a 48-hour window, so moving that slow means you're going to have to spend 6, 8, 10 hours a day playing Arena. Now, you can do that if you want, but I can't do that. So I give myself a little bit of leeway. I still want to shoot for a high win rate, but I'm not worried about 100% because of that. The second thing that we do when we shoot for a high win rate is we avoid taking risks. And I actually never do that. I never avoid taking risks. I think if you want to get better at Arena, you need to deliberately take risks. Because if you want to know what your teams can really do, if you want to know what your champions are truly capable of, you need to be taking on risky battles. I'm not talking about guaranteed losses. I'm just talking about pushing the envelope a little bit and seeing if you can figure out solutions. You know, how much player power can you give away on your team and still win? What champions do you need in a composition in order to counteract certain defenses? You're never going to figure that out if you are shooting for a 100% win rate and therefore avoiding all risk taking. So when I look at that 4% loss rate there, I consider that an investment in my long-term skill. And in fact, it's paid huge dividends over the last year because I've been doing this for probably 18 months or so. And I would say 18 months ago, my win rate was consistently in the low to mid 80s, anywhere between about 80 and 85%. Whereas now I'm consistently 93 to 98% win rate. And I haven't changed my approach at all. That just means that I'm getting better at arena, right? I'm understanding what my champions can do more effectively than I used to. And as a result, when I come around to a tournament like this and I have to play fast, I can still play fast and have a high degree of accuracy in my judgment and therefore a good win rate. So I've been fighting fast and I've only lost 7 battles out of the last 178. And that's just because I understand what my team compositions can do. That's because I was never risk averse. Got to take those risks in order to learn. We're going to fight here today in Classic Arena. I am in Gold 5, as you can see, and I'm not too far up in Gold 5, but I'm not at the bottom either. So this is where I am living every day. And as I said, I do the minimum kind of number of battles to just stay here. But then during a tournament like this, I want to push. Now, obviously, we have these one-man defenses. We want to rip through those. But what I'm trying to do is find a way to defeat every single opponent on this page, get that free refresh, and then go ahead to the next page and do the same thing over and over and over again so I can save my refreshes for an emergency when I know I can't beat someone, right? So, for instance, if I'm looking at this page, I've got 4 really easy one-man defenses. But now let's look at the other defenses. So what I want to do is I want to start by talking about team compositions. So we're going to go in here and I have erased all of my teams. I've erased all of my team. So I want to start by talking about what's a good baseline team to have for a tournament like this. And you always want to start with a go first team, a speed lead team. Now, if you have Arbiter, she's almost always going to be your speed lead. There are other champions like Sify or Shuzhen or Armands. There are other teams that can, have a different speed lead, but this is sort of the classic go first team. Now, what I want to do is I want to create a go first team that I know if it wins the speed race will win 99.9% of its matches if I pick the right opponent. So the first thing that I want here is I want a fast Arbiter, and we'll talk about how fast my Arbiter is in just a second. Then I want to back that up with another turn meter filler. So in this case, my Arbiter is over 400 speed, and I need to connect to another champion that has to go fast enough to connect. So my only champion that connects fast enough to my Arbiter is my Astrid. Now, Astrid is a little bit redundant here in the sense that she gives an increased attack as well, but that's okay. I can live with a little redundancy because between these 2 champions, we have 2 turn meter fills, 1 turn meter reduction, an AoE increase attack, and an AoE weaken. Very good. However, my damage dealers aren't running fast enough to be connected, so I need a 3rd turn meter filler. In this case, I also want to drop defense. There's only 1 champion that does that in the entire game. That's Deacon Armstrong. So now I go turn meter fill into turn meter fill into turn meter fill. I've also got 2 turn meter decreases, increase attack, decrease defense, and weaken. And now I'm going to go into my nuker, and I've got Genbo as my nuker. Now, one of the nice things about Genbo here is, yes, he hits very hard. He's not going to weak hit because he's void affinity, so you don't have to worry about that. But the other thing is that if he has an increased attack, he ignores unkillable. And that helps you into certain champions like Leorius. It also helps you when people are wearing, what's that armor set that gives you unkillable? Swift Parry. Swift Parry. So if anybody is wearing Swift Parry, Genbo's just going to ignore it. So this is my typical go first team, and it is a pure go first team. There's no buff strip here. There's no crowd control. There's no defenses built into this team. I want to go first all the way down the line and nuke out the enemy team. So as you can see here, my Arbiter's at 410. In order to get somebody to be connected here, I need to run them at 320 speed minimum, I think. 322, something like that. So as you can see here, my Astrid is at 336. She's the only one fast enough to be connected. I don't really have anybody else who's fast enough. Maybe my Armands is. We'll talk more about him in just a moment. And then I've got Deacon here at 292, so he stays connected with Astrid. And then I've got my Genbo here at 263, and he's connected. Now, if I wanted to put this into the AI, what I would do is make sure that Arbiter opens with her A3. That's her turn meter fill. I want Astrid. Astrid's basically going to do her thing, but I want to make sure she opens with the A3 as well. That's the increased speed and turn meter fill. She's going to get the extra turn and go into the weaken. Now, Deacon's a little bit of a pain because you actually do want him to open with his time compression, but you want to make sure that he uses his sweeping retribution, and he doesn't use it when there's a stone skin on the enemy. And I don't care about that. I want him to use it anyway. So I'm going to force it by making it the first choice skill. And then Gembo here, just in case, he sometimes does weird things with his extra turn. So we want him to open with this and then use this as his first choice. So that's going into the AI. That's his AoE. And that should handle the vast majority of teams I'm likely to take this particular team composition into. Okay, so now we're talking about this team that we're coming into. I don't know that the Go First team is the best team to take this one on. Let's look for a different team that I might beat with the Go First. So we could take another Arbiter team. And here I want to talk about power, team power a little bit. As you can see, the team power here is 334, and my team power is, whoops, that's not my team. This is my team. Mine is 260. So I'm giving away a fair amount of team power here. However, there are a couple of other things that I need to consider. One is there's a 5-star intimidating presence here on this Arbiter, and I only have a 2-star intimidating presence on my team. However, I have 2 epics, and they have all legendaries and a mythic champion here. That's going to boost that power. So the question becomes, am I fast enough? If I go first, I'm going to nuke this team. It's not going to be a problem. If they go first, I'm going to lose. So this is where that risk taking comes into play. I actually suspect that I'm faster. I suspect that my team is faster. And if I beat Arbiter, they don't have a second turn meter fill. So if my Arbiter goes first, I can't really lose the race. I could still lose the fight, especially, let's say, if there's a bunch of stone skin here. But chances are this team isn't built with stone skin. So I'm going to go ahead and take this fight. We're going to see what happens. There's a chance they're faster, but I am in fact faster. Barely. You can see how close that Arbiter is in terms of turn meter. Barely faster, but just enough faster. Now I go turn meter fill into turn meter fill into weaken. Oop, that was almost a doozy there. Then I've got turn meter fill into that, and then we're going to go extra turn into nuke. And there we go. And this is over. Now, that was about the limit of this team. But taking my Go First team into a slower Go First team is really valuable because Go First teams are typically built squishy. So knowing how fast my Arbiter is and knowing that I generally win the speed race in this area of arena, I'm confident going into teams like this one here. This is another one. We'll just put it on full auto. It should be the same outcome. Unless we have a stone skin, right? And this is why I programmed that AI so that I would still nuke here. And we're going to see if this team can actually win this battle. We should. We just have to outlast the stone skin there. So there are some, variables that you're never going to know. I didn't know that there was going to be a stone skin on this team, right? Especially on Rector Draft. You could surmise that, you could guess it, but it wasn't bad enough that I was going to have to worry about it, right? My team is going to lap them and go again and again. Rector Draft is just going to revive one champion. And, with 2 nukers, I'm going to nuke both of them out. They're going to be dead a lot, and it's fine. Again, I did check the power differential here. So in this particular case, 275K, 274K versus my 260 is not enough. That Estrid is not enough to make me worry. However, let's look at this team here with the Mithrala, right? And the Necrit and the UDK. This is a scary team. I can't take my Go First team into this. However, I can still build a Go First team that can handle this. And so we're not talking Arbiter, Glass Cannon, Speed team. We're talking about a custom built team that will go ahead of this team and handle this team. So I'm actually going to build one for that right now. So let's talk about like a go slow Go First team. So in this particular case, I'm not looking for a lot of turn meter fill. I do potentially want a speed aura. And then what I'm going to try to do is counter what they're giving me. So remember, I have a Necrit, I have a Mithrala. It's a little bit scary, right? So I'm thinking about Armands. Let me find my Armands. He actually should be near the top. There he is. So he's going to give me that aura. He's going to let me go first. And he's also going to help me counter all of the defenses that that team is going to put up. Now, I do suspect that there might be some Stone Skin there, so I'm going to bring in a damage dealer who ignores Stone Skin. So I'm going to bring in Mezimel. And then I also want to give myself opportunities to, like, strip buffs, crowd control, do other things. So we could bring in, let's say we bring in, maybe not that. Maybe not that. Who do we want to bring? I do want to bring in a debuff cleanser. So it's basically going to be Cardiel or Mithrala or Ash. Oh, you know who I could bring in? And I could bring in Pythion. Let's do that because he's also a reviver. So just in case we get stuck, we have a revive for that. And then in addition to that, I do want to maybe have a backup, either control or damage dealer. Like I might want a second damage dealer. Now, the thing about this is a go slow, go first team, right? If you look at their team, they have no turn meter fill. They have no speed aura. So hopefully all of my champions are faster than all of theirs with the speed aura, but Armands should be. Now, if you're looking at my Armands is 321, so he's relatively fast. My Mezimel, however, is only 211. Pythion's a little bit faster at 243, and Thor's a little bit faster at 253. So Mezimel is slow. That means I need Armands to control this team a little bit. So it's a go first control team or a go slow, go first team. So that's what we're going to do here. Now, I'm not going to put anything into the AI. I just want to show how my team should be able to counter their team. The primary threat here is the Mythic Champion. So let's see if we can steal turn meter. So we stole some turn meter, not enough. Let's go ahead and use Thor here. Okay. And now we're going to use our sheep ability on UDK to strip the buffs. And this is going to get us around to Mezimel, who remember has the block revive. There's no reviver here, but it's also ignore Stone Skin, which is really what I wanted. And we're going to try to kill the main DPS, the main damage dealer. All right. Now that block revive and remove, I'm good to go. This could take forever, and I should be fine. So I'm just going to put it on auto. But again, by knowing what the enemy's win condition is, I can build a team that should counteract that win condition. So the win condition here is being tanky enough and having enough debuffs, enough buffs and cleanses to keep the one damage dealer alive until they get a turn, right? They know they're going to lose the speed race. So I just have to realize that's their win condition and then say, how do I get around that? Well, Armands gets around that, right? Now, you might not have Armands. You might have to have another champion. But again, you could use your Arbiter to make sure your team goes first, and then you could have the things that you need to do to handle the UDK and the nuker on the enemy team. And in this particular case, I have a much higher team power than I had before, right? Almost 500K. But again, I'm giving away almost 90,000 team power, right? So you don't have to be afraid of teams with higher power if you build your compositions correctly. Now let's look at a couple of others here. So again, this is a team that's going slow and has one damage dealer and is trying to survive, right? Now Mezimel is great into this team because Mezimel is Spirit Affinity, and these are all Force Affinity champions. But the bigger thing here is there's going to be Stone Skin. Probably on almost maybe everybody. Not Mithrala, but maybe on the other three champions. So I need a champion to get around the Stone Skin. Now, there are some things you can do if you don't have a Mezimel or an Allele or somebody who ignores Stone Skin. And one thing that you can do is you can build a bomb team. So what I could do here is, let's say, go back to my Arbiter. She's going to give me an increased attack, and then I'm going to use a bomb champion. In this case, Nishak, Vermin Lord. And again, I do want to worry about affinities, because if there are any spirit affinities here, I probably want to avoid this bomb champion. But everybody here is neutral affinity, so it shouldn't be a problem. No weak hits. Now, the speed on my Nishak is pretty high, 269. You can see the accuracy is pretty high at 533. He will not land the bombs on Mithrala. This Mithrala will have enough resist, and potentially the Pythion may as well. And depending on their speed tune, that means Mithrala could cleanse everybody else's bombs. So this would be a risky team to take in. Okay. But this is one way to get through Stone Skin. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to do a couple of things. One is I'm going to bring in a buff strip champion to give me a chance to actually get rid of those Stone Skins that I expect to find. So you could bring in Wukong here. I'm actually going to bring in, let's bring in Lady Mikage. Yeah. And then what I need to do, I think, I could do several things here. I mean, normally I would bring in Mesmel, but I'm trying to avoid using her. Let's do that. Let's just do that for now. Gives me a second turn meter fill if I need it. Oh, you could see her stats. She's not fast enough to really give a ton of it, but she's got 245. So she's actually the slowest champion here. She can give me shield. She can give me a cleanse, block debuffs, all that jazz. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into this fight. Again, I'm taking a bigger risk here. Okay, we only got 2 Stone Skins, but as you can see, Mithrala is faster than Harima, but slower than Pythion. So if we actually land bombs on Pythion, if we land enough bombs on Pythion, he should die. We also have an ally attack here, though. So let's go ahead and see if we can get some damage into Harima. Okay, that's not bad. So do we hit Pythion? We do hit Pythion. And you'll notice my Nishak is in 1 turn Stone Skin. That's very specifically for this. All right, so now we've killed the Reviver, and we just have the 2 tanks left. And this could be slow, but this is why I brought in Freya in the first place, just to give me a little bit of, I don't know what you call it. Give me a little bit of longevity, durability, something like that. The ability to just keep the fight going for a bit longer. Remember that I still have the revives from Arbiter, but I want to make sure Arbiter doesn't die. So those shields and cleanses and stuff will extend the fight, and eventually we will defeat this team. But again, by knowing what the enemy's win condition is, right, staying alive until Harima gets a shot, and then finding a way to get around that, right? My ally attack is one good way to get around a Stone Skin UDK, because he only absorbs the first hit. So you can use direct damage. I could have used somebody like, a Phoenix here instead of Nishak to try to block revive on that Harima through an ally attack. And that's actually something you can use into like a Wukong team. So now let's actually look at this Wukong team. So this is a go slow, go first team, but it might be a go fast, go first team, right? So Siphi could be the fastest champion here, but also Warlord is dangerous because if he goes first, he will lock you out. He'll lock you out with his A3. And then, of course, you've also got the potential that this team is just going to survive for a long time and let Wukong come around and knock you out that way. So it's a fast team potentially, but it might not have to win the speed race in order to still be super effective. But my guess is it's trying to win the speed race. Now, in this particular case, I'm going to go with a slightly different speed team than my first one, because I'm suspecting Stone Skin here, and we also have to deal with Wukong, who's a little bit dangerous in a different way. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring in Arbiter, and then I'm going to bring in my Xu Zhen, who actually is fast. I should have mentioned her earlier. Where is she? There she is. So she is fast enough to stay connected to Arbiter. She's actually faster than my Asher. Now the question is, how do we counter this team? Well, we need Wukong to stay dead. So we want to bring in somebody who can kill Wukong and keep him down. So I'm going to bring back in, I got to stop doing that. I'm going to bring back in my Mesmel, but I could use Phoenix. Now my Phoenix is built very slowly, so I don't actually want to do that here. I want somebody with a block revive that is going to be faster. If you don't have a block revive, going into a team like this, you probably need a bomb champion. You need to make sure that you bomb them out completely, and that would be a better option here, like a go first bomb team. But I want to try to do different team compositions for different fights. So we're going to bring that in, and now we're also going to bring in team that I think can control this team a little bit. So if Sify doesn't get her block debuffs up, we don't have to worry about a cleanse, and we can just control the team. So an AoE stun is good. I do want to think about affinities. So I would like a magic affinity or a void affinity stun champion or freeze champion. Lady Noelle would actually be perfect in this spot, but I don't have her built yet. And I do want it to be 100% if possible. All right, I'm going to have to bring in my Odin. Again, there are a lot of champions that you could bring here. I could probably put Odin in the lead for this particular team. Let's do that. Let's put Odin in the lead. And then Arbiter. And then Mez. Okay. Now, my Odin's not fast either. You can see he's at 231. And my Mesmel's only at 211. But the nice thing about Shuzhen is she has not only a turn meter fill, she also has like a go now button. She can just put that on somebody and then they go instantaneously. So we're going to use this and we're going to see how this does. Okay, so we do have some Stone Skin, which we don't care about too much with Mezimel. Now what I want to do here is, do I want to just turn meter fill? Because it looks like they're at maximum. But if I have Mezimel go right now and I kill Wukong, I can still lose to the Armands. So I think I'm going to turn meter fill and hope I go next. I did. Okay, so now I'm going to use that crowd control, that stun, and it's also a buff strip. All right, so I've got 2 of these champions now stunned, or I did. But now if Armands goes, I could still be in trouble. Armands is going to go, and I'm probably going to lose this fight. So this is what I talk about when I'm saying, like, you've got to test the limits of your champions. This is telling me right now, and I've known this for some time, that my Mezimel is too slow. My Mezimel is too slow. I need another 20 speed on her in order to take on teams like this, because Armands is just waiting there in Stone Skin for his opportunity to go. I could have killed him if I got my Mezimel to go, right? Like I could have killed him through the Stone Skin. But now I can't. Now I'm basically done. And this is going to be a loss on my resume, which is unfortunate, but it's a good opportunity to show you, what happens. All right, so let's go ahead and end this battle. Now, I could also take my Armands into that fight. That's another, fight I could take. So here's a good opportunity to say, hey, I lost the fight, but I got information from the fight. Did I get enough information to figure out something to do? And it's like, yeah, I could have even maybe just this would have been a better fight, right? Because then Mezimel would have gotten the speed boost, maybe. Or maybe I could do something like bring in Armands and keep Mezimel and do this. Because remember, he's connected, right? So he would go, and that would potentially change the outcome of this fight. So let's go and see how this works out. And again, maybe I lose again. So we get the double turn meter fill, and now we've got Armands, right? Now, Armands, I'm going to do, if I wanted to be careful, I would go with the sheep, but I actually am going to try to get the steel here. And I got it, and now I'm going to sheep their Armands. And now I could do a bunch of different things, but what I'm actually going to do here is I think I'm going to kill their warlord. All right. And now that's going to let me just take this team down in my own sweet time. Yeah, shouldn't be a problem. I do want to do this manually because sometimes the AI does weird things when I don't expect it. And so, yeah, again, we're going to do this. We're going to transform it, and hopefully we'll just wipe everything. And there we go. Okay. So even though I lost this battle originally, I had another team composition that could win it. Now, that's fine. When I took that first team in, I knew it was risky because I knew there was this potential for disconnect. But what I have learned is that if I go to my champions, let's say I go to my champions, I've learned that my Mezimel is just too slow. Now, there are a few ways I can get her some extra speed. I could get 5-star speed boots. I could also get an ascension, and that could potentially pick me up 17 more speed. That would get me from the 211 where I am now to 228. I probably need to get to around 240. You know, so I can also look at, all of these other pieces. Maybe this 5-star piece or this 5-star piece isn't fast enough and I need more speed rolls. Maybe I need more speed glyphs. There are things I could do to get this team faster. Um a second pinpoint piece, right, would push me another 10% speed. Like I don't have that bonus yet because I don't have the right pieces. I don't want to get rid of this crit damage. And right now this Slayer piece gets me to the 100 or the 70% crit rate I need. So I would need to swap more than one piece to get that additional speed. But really, that's where I've learned I'm weak. Mezimel isn't fast enough. I have almost completed the page. All I really have to do is beat this one additional team here because all the rest are one-man defenses. I've got one token left, so let's see if we can get in here. Now, one of the things that you have to remember about Mariska is that you can't take in poisons or bombs, because if you land a poison or a bomb, she's going to put up a block damage buff for one turn on everybody. Now, you can bring in bombs if you have like a buff strip that's reliable or a block debuffs or whatever. But what's probably happening here is we've got Stone Skin on one or two of these nukers, and this is kind of a go fast, like go first team that could still go second and win. So I actually think a team like the one that I've got right now is probably the best option. I don't want to bring in Nishak. I do want to bring in a hard-hitting champion. I could bring in like a Wukong. Somebody who's got a buff strip might help. But I basically think that this team is going to be enough. I think this team is going to be enough. But we'll have to see. The question is, are we fast enough? We are fast enough. That's going to help. And they have no Stone Skin. I did not expect that. But now it's going to be a piece of cake. So what we want to do is we want to kill Mariska first. Because remember that when she comes back, she revives everybody else. So we're going to go ahead and block revive her. And then we're going to go after Arbiter because the nukes are not scary right now. Right? The nuke champions are not scary. They are stunned. Not a problem. I don't want to sheep anybody. And then we're just going to go ahead and transform and nuke everybody out, and it'll be. And there it is. Okay. So now I have basically just the 4 one-man defenses left, and so I have won 10 battles and lost 1. That's not a bad win rate. It's lower than I'd rather clear all 10 without losing. But again, this is how you learn. This is how you learn the strengths and weaknesses of your champions. Now, one type of team that I didn't use anywhere here was a go second team, right? I used a slow go first team. And often that's the best. You want to beat the enemy to the punch, even if they're a go second team, because going first is such a tactical advantage. But if I were to build a slow team, like an actual go second team, right? One of the champions I would probably use is UDK. Without UDK, it becomes tougher. Like you could have a Duchess maybe. There are a couple of other champions that you could use. But if you're building a go second team, you need either the right champions or you need everybody in Stone Skin. And you need to know what kind of team you're going into, right? So for instance, right now I have Stone Skin on this champion. I have Stone Skin on Pythion for 2 turns. I have Stone Skin on Nishak for 1 turn. And then let's say I have Mithrala, who's basically just impossible to land debuffs on because she's got 1,000 resistance. Right? So if we look at this team, you'll notice my Ultimate Death Knight's running pretty slow. I could make him slower, 124. That's going to allow that Stone Skin to stay on for as long as possible and give his passive, a long time to work. This one. Pythion is in Stone Skin, so he's our reviver and our cleanser. Nishak is in 1 turn Stone Skin, so hopefully he'll survive, the initial nuke. And then Mithrala is just there for cleanses, for strengthens and shields, and, general awesomeness. Okay, so that is my team. Now let's go take this team into, I'm going to skip this. I don't really want to, but I'm going to skip this page. let's go into a team that like might be problematic. Maybe a team that is trying to go first. That's usually what you're looking for. Do we need a reviver? Probably not. So I'm going to go into this team here. Now I could make Pythion my resistance lead. I could make any champion here could be the lead, really, depending on what you think you're going to face. They do have a buff strip, but I'm going to assume that it's not going to actually get through everything. All right. So survived the initial setup. As you can see, my Mithrala is almost dead. So I'm going to give her a little bit of healing there. And then we'll put out a Hex. And then we're going to use our bombs. And we didn't kill Wukong, but we should be able to do that. Hopefully. Don't want to revive anybody because of the Lydia. So we just got to whittle this Wukong down, but there you go. So you can build a go second team, even in arena offense if you want. And usually it's set up this way with Stone Skin. If you have a lot of good Stone Skin, I'd highly recommend it. If you have Mithrala, she's great in arena, and now I've got a much harder battle. I got to fight all of these fights now instead of those 4 one-man defenses. But that's just the way it goes. That's okay. And by the way, again, learning specific champions and which champions are problematic. Hegemon will always go first, and he will potentially lock you out. Hefrak is usually in a Stone Skin, right? And when Wukong dies, he's going to do his nuke, right? Because Hefrak has a passive nuke when an when an ally dies. And Wukong can fire that off again and again by coming back. So this is a go first team that can also survive, like, even if you kill it. So for instance, this would be a team that I would want a champion that could get through Stone Skin. So potentially a bomb champion here. But you have to worry about that because if Wukong is really squishy and he dies, Hefrak's going to nuke you. I need to worry about Galathier here. I think that's his name, right? So, I've got a lot to worry about in this particular team. Again, here's a go second team that has 1 nuker. So that same kind of thing that we saw before. So if I can block revive on the Trunda, I'm basically fine. Here's, again, this team is maybe a little bit sandbagging. Like, this might be a go first team because this Armands might be really fast, even though they're not putting up their speed aura. So this might catch a go slow, go first team. So you just have to know how these champions interact with your champions. Marius, right? Marius, every time you try to turn meter reduce him, he's going to nuke your team. So in this particular case, I wouldn't want to take a Deacon or an Astrid into this Marius team, right? So this is a team where I can have a go first team, but it needs to be only turn meter increases. So in this particular case, we would go, let's say, Arbiter. Where is she? Arbiter. Let's go into Shuzhen. So both turn meter, actually, she's got a turn meter decrease, doesn't she? That's okay. Shouldn't be a problem. And then we're going to go, let's do our 2 nukers. We'll do, we'll do that. Let's see if it works. All right, so we can go first. And she's looking kind of slow. I'm going to go ahead and lock him out. And then we're just going to hope our bombs hit and that our Mithrala doesn't cleanse. She didn't cleanse. We can nuke out Wukong. He's not coming back. And then Mithrala is it. And so we can just hit auto. So again, was there a danger there? Sure, right? But in a lot of cases, Mithrala puts out Hex instead of cleansing, like because she's programmed in the AI to do that. And so you just don't have to worry about the cleanse. And knowing that just comes from fighting Mithrala 100 times. And then you realize, or even running your own Mithrala. If you don't put her into the AI, she throws her Hex out first. That's what she does. So unless this Mithrala was specifically programmed to cleanse, which probably she should have been, you're going to get that you're going to get that hex out there instead. So yeah. Okay. I think that's enough here. Just giving you an idea of all of the considerations. Practice this, manual your fights. Try fighting risky teams. Don't worry about team power so much. Worry about team composition a lot more. See how fast your go first teams are. See how strong your go second teams are. Find the ways around Stone Skin. Find the ways around UDK. Find your solution for Wukong if you have a block revive. Those are the things that you need to figure out. And I'm just going to run you through the champions that I've used today so you can see some of the gear and the champions, like I said, which are specifically built for PvP. My nukers generally are, but good nuke builds are usable in PvE in a lot of cases. So as you can see, my Mezimel primarily built for PvP, plus the Soul Reap helps for her AoE. Mithrala is not built for PvP. She's built for PvE, but it tends to work in both places because the more accuracy she has, the more resistance she ends up with. So the only thing that you want to make sure is that she's relatively fast, and that benefits you in both places. Freya, I would need more resistance on her if I were really building her for PvP. She is built for PvE, but she tends to be good there anyway, just because she has that passive that allows her to save like somebody on 1 HP, which is pretty cool. And then her kit is really good. Thor is built for PvE, but I use him in PvP. Sometimes you can see he's actually in lifesteal. Armand's is built for PvP because he's just built fast in supersonic. So I think Armand's is good in PvE built this way, but really the focus here for him is just speed and accuracy. So 321 speed, 575 accuracy. I almost don't care about the rest of his stats. Wukong is built for PvE, not PvP. If I wanted him for PvE, he'd need a lot more accuracy, like over 500 or 600 accuracy if I could get it. But in this case, 260 speed, a lot of damage, so he does hit decently hard, even though he's not built as a primary nuker. But still a good build for him. You can see Astrid. This is a flex build, PvE build, but works in PvP. Again, the accuracy could be a little bit higher on her if I were really focusing her on PvP. And again, you're seeing no Stone Skin on any of these champions. The Stone Skin champions for me are Pythion. He does have a 2-turn Stone Skin. He is built for PvP. If I were to build him for PvE, I would build him faster. You can see I have some resistance on him. The resistance almost doesn't matter. Like, I either need a lot more or it's like, why bother? So I might actually get rid of some of this resistance in order to get him some more speed, which I think would be valuable. But good amount of defense, good HP. Who else? Nishak is actually built for PvP at this point. He was built for PvE for a long time, but I got him a bit faster. You can see 6,700 attack, which is, I think, the most attack anywhere on my account. Very little HP, good accuracy. I actually lost some accuracy to get him into a 1-turn Stone Skin because he kept dying to counterattacks, right? He needs that extra turn to get his bombs out. So he puts his bombs out, gets an extra turn, and then he goes ahead and like reduces the cooldown, and that basically becomes a detonation when the enemy goes. So this skill was activating counterattacks, and he was dying without Stone Skin. So I had to put him in Stone Skin for PvP, so he's specifically in a PvP build. Arbiter is just fast. That's all she needs to be anywhere, really. Accuracy helps, but you can see I don't have enough accuracy for PvP. I have enough accuracy for some PvE. So this is really an all-around build, but it works the same in every place for the most part. And I think that's pretty much everybody at maybe Shuzhen. She is PvP specific. I don't really use her anywhere else. You can see 365 speed. She does have decent defense and HP. I could use more accuracy on her, though. If she were more glass cannon and more accurate, that would be good. So if I could get her out of, at least one of these speed sets and get her into perception set, that would probably be valuable because she doesn't always decrease the turn meter of the enemy. But that's the only thing she really needs her accuracy for. Like, her kit is so good anyway that you don't really need accuracy. You can just go with the A2, gives you an instant turn, and she crushes. Or the turn meter fill, which doesn't need accuracy. So that's why I've sort of got her here at this middling amount of accuracy for PvP. I think that's it. I think that's all the champions I showed you today. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Was this insightful? Did this help you anyway? Was this all stuff that you already knew? Or do you are you just focusing on the champions? Because obviously everybody's going to have a different roster. So yeah, just let me know your thoughts, if you will. I'd appreciate it. Okay, that is it for me today. Thanks so much for hanging out. I have been Cole Red. I will see you in another video soon.